Mm-hmm. Yum. Oh, coffee. Oh, you guys. Okay, so it is the first week into the first of the year, or our New Year's at least here in America. And wherever else people celebrate the first of the year as January 3rd or January 1st. And it is funny because everybody's like, bye bye 2020. Here we go, 2021. Yes, I'm excited. And I'm glad that people are excited. And I'm glad that they're ready for new energy to come in. But as I stated before, if you didn't set up your foundation, right? If you didn't devour your foundation last year, you've got to devour that foundation. We're not going back to the old, right? People want the old to come back, and it's not. We're headed for a new direction, and setting up our spiritual integrity. Good morning, Crystal. Our spiritual foundation, right? Our principles, the practices, right? That we have, that we start to ground ourselves in spiritual integrity, that we start to develop the principles and practices that we're going to use for our life and moving forward. Okay? Because we are at, we would say the precipice of change, but the change is already here, right? The transformation and change has already happened. It's happening as it's unfolding, and we can see it happening as a result of, people overthrowing the Capitol or trying to overthrow the Capitol. I mean, there's so much crazy going on right now. Like, I don't get involved in all the politics. I don't have to get involved. Why? Because if you know who you are, if you understand the dynamics of the internal self, you're going to understand what's happening on the grander scale, because as within, so without, right? As above, so below. Everything is interconnected. Everything that we have is, it's a life web, right? Everything is connected to one another, and we've lived as though it's not, as though it's separated and it's parceled out, and maybe it's siloed here and it's siloed there, and oh, if we don't see it and it's happening there, then it's not impacting us, so who cares? So it's not. But now we're seeing the results of that way of thinking, right? We can't live in a compartmentalized world where we just focus on one thing and not the other thing. There's an impact that happens, and it may not happen today, it may not happen now, but it does happen eventually. So we're seeing crazy now in your life, right? Asking yourself, what are you not letting go of? Because what's happening, good morning, Antonio. What is happening right now is that there is this cling on to the old. This is a classic example of not allowing ourselves to let go, not having faith that what is about to come is going to be what it is. This is where people get pushed into submission, right? They say, well, God's going to push you into submission. Well, we put ourselves into submission because we don't want to accept change and transformation. It's not easy. It's distorted. It's uncomfortable. It looks weird to us. It's fearful. People have a fear of the unknown. They're used to schedules. They're used to things being like this, systematic. We want to devour a system, and this is what I was telling my friend, because he's been, so I have friends and I've been in this work for a long time. And part of the work that I do are individuals who do not agree with this particular system that's in place. They don't like our government. They don't just talk about not liking it. They're taking action steps to try to create something new, right? A new world, right? A new world with laws and principles that are closer to God's law or to natural law than the laws that we see today that are distorted, and there's corruption and all this other stuff, okay? But the thing is, and the thing that I tell them is, you want to devour a system, but don't have anything in place once that's devoured. That's not how it works. You've got to be able to understand that you've got to set a foundation which to build upon. People want to overthrow government. They want to change the government. The government's not good. This, that, the other. Well, the reality is it's been functional. It has been dysfunctionally functional. Okay? I'm not saying it's the perfect. I don't think we can have a utopia. I think everybody's trying to figure out, well, how do we live in a utopia? You live in a utopia when you start to work on yourself and you stop focusing on the external world. Start looking internally. Like when we talk about these individuals who are trying to overthrow the Capitol, who are upset, who are doing this and that, there's some very internal issues going on with them inside, right? Inside, something's happening to them. They don't want to let go of the old. They're afraid of maybe what's to come, or they're fighting to hold on to something that doesn't exist anymore. It's a fight, right? It's a spiritual war. We're at spiritual war, and now it's starting to manifest into a physical war. People are trying to call forth that internal, whatever's going on inside of them, they're trying to express it externally. That's what they're doing. They're over there at the Capitol expressing internally what's happening, externally to try to say, hey, this is what I think. This is what I feel. And they're expressing on the internal. So right now, what I'm saying is that you guys wake up, okay? Please wake up, or don't. It's up to you. It's only going to get harder if you don't wake up. Meaning, learn your spiritual lessons. Allow yourself to go through the pain and anguish. That's why I talk about the dark emotions, because right now, the foundation is crumbling. Last year was a year for us to devour foundations and start to build new foundations. And that's what I said. I said, you guys, please start to set up your foundations. We're going to see more crazy. Now, for those of you who are spiritually grounded, for those of you who are doing the work, your spiritual work, and you're standing firm and you're building your spiritual integrity, you're building your house, the temple within, you're going to be unwavering. It's not going to have an impact on you. Not as much. Or you're going to understand that it's a spiritual drama, or a spiritual journey that you're going through. You're going to understand that part of the spiritual journey, hey bestie, hi. That part of the spiritual journey is the devouring of systems. That's what's happening right now. It's called a tower event, and I've talked about this before. The tower event is like, let the MF burn. They set fire to everything. They destruct. Everything gets torn down. There's fire. It's chaos. That's a tower. And right now we're seeing the tower event happen because we need to set our own foundations, and that needs to happen here first. If you don't know how to do it here, how can you do it on the external? People want change externally, but they don't even change internally. It doesn't make sense. We need a different world. We need things that are different. Okay, well, what does that look like? How are you going to create that? Are you going to create it? What does it look like? You want to complain about what's here, but are you helping to fix or to have ideas about what can happen to move it forward in a different direction? Well, no. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on complaining about what's here. Yeah, but what if they devoured it completely? Then what? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? What is your game plan? Do you have one? See, you've got to understand that the characters that have set into motion some of these transformation and changes are doing it with intention. They do it with intention. Good morning, Betty. They intentionally set up these tower events on purpose because they understand the great work. Now, when they do this, they do it for control. They do it to manipulate. There are characters out there that are there to manipulate, that are there for their own well-being, that are there for their own self. That's part of life. There's people that are like that, right? You know those people that are always out for themselves. It's only about them. It's about what they want. It's all about them. And they'll do anything and go through any means to do what's right and best for them, not necessarily caring about what's going to happen as a consequence to society, and then seeing the people in society as their pawns or puppeteers. Okay? And they don't care. Let's just put it that way. There are people like that. Now, is it right, wrong, good, or bad? Doesn't matter. Even if it was right, wrong, good, or bad, it still exists. So we can say it doesn't exist, but it does. It is here. And there are people like that. Okay? We know that the people that are like that are in these levels of powers to make complete change. They're doing it on purpose. Just like I, on purpose, devour certain parts of my life uncomfortably just so that I can recreate a new foundation for the betterment of humanity. So as a light worker, there's a distinction. I do it for the betterment of humanity and the betterment of myself, but not at the means and the cost of other individuals, right? So not seeing people as a puppeteer. No. Saying, how do we help? Okay. Hi, I am your Huckleberry. Huckleberry Finn. Huckleberry Finn. So right now what we see happening, particularly in the United States, is this clinging on to old ideas. That's what we're really seeing. These people don't want to let go of the old way of living. The old structures, they're trying to cling to old structures, old ideas, old ways of living. And the new world is trying to come in and say it's time to change. And so that we see sort of this battle happening between ideologies and perspectives and ideas, and we see this kind of force of back and forth going like this, trying to fight. And because of that, it scares some people, right? It causes a tizzy in some, or some people rise up and say, why aren't you arresting those people? It causes fight, it causes disconnect, it causes a separation again. But we need this craziness to wake up. Wake up, people. Wake up. I've said it like 2-3 years ago. I kept saying wake up. I was serious about it. I meant it, and I still mean it today. It's not going to stop until we call ourselves back home to God, universe, nature, however you want to call it. I call it God. It's easier for me that way. But you guys have your way of viewing the Almighty, the All Grand, the All Creator, the All whatever you call it. The very fabric of everything that exists internally, externally, the consciousness, however you want to describe it, whatever it is for you. That it's a call back to that. And it's uncomfortable because we have to devour our old ways of thinking, and we have to let go of old patterns, and it's difficult to do that. It's not easy. But the result ends up in individuals going and vandalizing and being crazy. And we've seen so much vandalism right now. We've seen so much, and I will say this, people don't like Trump. A lot of people don't like Trump, okay? And here's the deal. I don't care if you like him, don't like him. It's not a political thing. I don't really care. He's a human being. But what he did, okay, is he made what was hidden, what was covert, which was hidden, he made it overt, and he opened up the gate to show the truth. And people don't like the truth sometimes. And he was the pawn in somebody else's game, or whoever, or he was playing the game of chess too. Everybody's playing a role. His role is to what? Is to really expose the truth. And even though the truth is harsh and not wanted, it's showing the truth. It's showing people's true colors, true nature. right? People talk about white supremacy. They talk about, you know, all this stuff. They talked about sex trafficking. They talked about Black Lives Matter. All of these big issues about women's rights. All this stuff started to tear open and be exposed. Because why? Because Trump's a big mouth. And he says what he wants. And people don't like it. And the truth is then revealed. And the truth sometimes is ugly. And then people's true nature started to surface. Their true internal surface. Their true internal heart started to be exposed. Spiritual warfare. Nobody could escape it, really. This pandemic, everything that has happened has been an opening to expose your true nature. It has exposed everybody to who you really are. Now, some of it is dark. And for those people who hold the darkness inside that have never really allowed themselves to go through it, are starting to expose that part of themselves. And people are freaking out. Well, why are you freaking out? It's been there all along. It just hasn't been exposed. Now we have this individual who has come to expose it. He's ripped it open and said, look, here's what people really think. And people are just doing it. And now look at what's happened. So was he good, right, wrong, good, or bad? It doesn't matter. He served a purpose. And you get to ask yourself, how does that impact you in your life? How are you letting that impact you? How are you creating your life from this point on? What lessons are you learning for yourself? We cannot go back in time. Okay, at least I don't know how. Maybe y'all have a time machine. I don't. Okay? If you learn how to do that, let me know. I don't know if I'd want to go back in time, right? Things play out the way they're supposed to, in my opinion. The unfolding of God's grand design unfolds the way it's supposed to. But we can't go back in time and change the fact that these people, or even that Trump was president. It happened. It is what it is. So now what? Well, it depends. What do you do with that information? What do you do with the experience that you're going through? There's an experience that's unfolding and unveiling itself. That is life itself. Life is experience, right? We are here to merely experience the unveiling, the unfolding of the journey, of the story. Why this particular story? What have we done to create this particular story? It's all made up. He'll say, it's real. Really? Is it? Because animals, if we went away, we wouldn't have this story. We created this story. We created technology. We created the storyline of having a president, of having highways, of having cars. We created all that. It wasn't a reality until it was. We've created administration, and what does it mean to be civilized, and how do we, engage in it? We created all that. Is it shit real? No. If it went away, the animals would be just fine. They would just be like, whatever. These dumb humans. They probably look at it like, these dumb humans, what are they trying to do? What is it that we're trying to do? Really? Let's just ask that question. What are we really trying to accomplish? What? Power? What are those people trying to accomplish? Like, what are their true intentions? If they go to overthrow the Capitol, I'd ask them, what is your intention? Like, what are you really trying to convey here? What is it that you're upset because what? Because you want the old to continue to exist? Because you want to cling on to an idea? Because you think you have a better way of administering people, that people can't manage themselves? Well, we don't know how to manage ourselves. You know why? Good morning, Rick. How are you? Good morning. Well, we don't, because nobody's taught us how to manage our damn selves. So people go acting crazy instead of managing themselves. And what does that mean? That means allowing yourself to go through the dark emotions. That's why I was reading the dark emotions, because the people think it stops. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop until people start getting clear about their own life. Like, we have to take our life back into our own hands. We can't expect some leader to come up and give us the answer. The answer exists within you. This is a call back to your personal journey. How do you engage in the experience? How are you taking personal responsibility for what's showing up? How are you taking personal responsibility in your own life? People talk about, oh, this and that and the government, and no, you can't even take responsibility for your own life, and you want to go and talk about how you're going to fix the government. You can't even fix yourself. Go fix yourself. I'm talking on behalf of myself, by the way, because I can't even fix myself. And I'm like, really? But yet we have all these people that are telling us how we should live our life and how it should go and this and that and the other. And I'm like, first of all, sir, do you have it together? Are you just telling us what you think it should look like because you think it's best for everybody, but you don't even know what the hell's best for you? Oh, I just laugh. I think it's, to me, it's a comic, right? It's comedy. It's comical. I mean, it's scary. I mean, not scary, but it's sad in some ways because people really do get hurt, and we are a species, and we do have pain, and we do have suffering. And of course, no one wants to go through the pain and the suffering or see people be harmed. Well, most people, let's just say most people don't. There's some people who actually don't care. But I would say that the majority of people really in the core of who they are really good individuals, and they don't want people to be harmed or hurt. Okay? But the reality is we hurt and harm ourselves, and we don't even know how to take care of ourselves. Most of those people probably have, some sort of chronic pain or illness or, mental whatever, and they don't even know how to handle their own mental capacity, physical capacity. They probably don't even know how to make their body work properly, but they want to make a whole system work. I mean, think about it. Our own body literally is an entire universe, and we don't even pay attention to that. And we want to pay attention to what's happening on the external. Look internally, and literally what's going on internally is really what's happening on the external, but people are not getting the connection. They're not connecting the dots. Right now they're thinking that the external world is what controls everything. Now the external world will unfold the way it's supposed to naturally. Not when we're putting in our own ideas, but if we looked at nature, took human beings out, it'll naturally unfold. We have nature that naturally plays its role. We cannot control that, although we have tried to control that. So what do? We focus on our internal essence. Who are we? Who are you? I like it. It's Epsilon. Who are you? And we can ask that question over and over again. That's why I like Alice in Wonderland. Who are you? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you taking care of your family? If we start within our own families, in our own life, it'll start to synergize outward. And part of it is going back to the old rituals and the old ways of being that we took and ripped apart from very, very indigenous cultures and all that stuff. We've ripped apart. I talk about I do tobacco prevention and taking away those ceremonies that, the rituals, the rites of passage, all of these things that were very important to humankind literally were created to remind us of how we are part of the grand design and how we fit in. No, we are over here thinking that we are gods and we are the kings and queens and we have all the power and might. And that's what this really is. It's the total ego is on blast right now. It's total ego. And it's okay. But recognize it and ask yourself, where is my ego in all this? We all have an ego. And our ego is saying something about it. And we can ask ourselves, where does my ego stand? Right? Am I allowing it to control me, or am I working with my ego so that I can create a better outcome for myself, my family, my community, society, the world, the universe, right? But it starts internally. So get right. Set your spiritual foundations, or don't, totally up to you. But this year is not going to stop. It's going to get crazier, right? And I'm sitting back watching the show going, wow, what's next? Like, nothing surprises me anymore, I'll be honest with you. I'm like, oh, people are like, what else can happen? And I'm like, oh, a whole lot. Don't even ask the question. Just don't even ask, because if you ask, then something more is going to happen. But it's going to get crazier, right? And really, it starts with you. It starts with your self-love, your connection, and your reconnection to God. So remember that. So I know people want to point a finger and they want to hate somebody for what's going on. It's not a thing. It's not a person. It's the reconnection back to Mother Earth, because we have forgotten. We have gone so far away from what truth is. We've created this magical, quote unquote, magical world for our own benefit, not really thinking about what is reality, what is truth. You know, coming back to those basic understandings. Well, is reality our government? No, we created that. Wasn't real until we made it real, right? It's a fantasy that we've brought to life. It's a dream that we've created into what we feel is reality, or an experience of what we feel is reality. So that experience itself feels like it's real. What's truly real? Well, if we get down to the basics of who we are, really it's just the experiences that we're having, and we're creating things from that. But nature itself will unfold and unveil the truth. The government ain't gonna unveil the truth. Like, stop looking to people. Look to God. Look to nature. Nature will tell you the truth. There's nothing but truth in nature. Why? Because that's something we didn't create. That's something that was created from the cosmos, from God, from something greater than we can understand. And it unfolds itself and unveils itself and reveals itself constantly. Go sit, watch the leaves. Go sit and watch the wind and hear the wind and see it through the leaves, and, you know, be back in nature. Watch water, watch all those things, and know that really we didn't create that, right? What we've created is a distorted, dysfunctional idea of what we think reality is, and it's come out pretty distorted. I mean, I hate to laugh, but let's be real. I laugh at stuff like this. Why? Because the reality is that it's comical. What we've created is just a big drama. And there are religions that talk about it, the Brahman, right? We have the Hinduism that talks about the great drama, that we're all actors playing out in this big drama, and really that's kind of what's happening right now. We see drama queens and we see drama kings, and we see, you know, the people that are begging, and the people that are, you know, everybody has this kind of role that they're playing out. Is it real? I don't know. Take it all away. If we took humans off, that's what I say. Take humans off the planet and see what's real. See what happens. Nature's gonna nature. Nature's gonna do its thing. And all the highways and all the cars and all the technology and all the government ain't gonna matter to them, because that's not how they exist. They just exist in harmony with God. We're trying to go against that. We're trying to create our own thing. And it's come out pretty jacked up, because we're flawed. We're not, God lives within us, but we're not God. We're part of God, but we're not God. And we're trying to recreate, I don't know what, in this world. Good morning, Jenny. Which is just, to me, it's kind of funny. So when we start to look at life from that perspective, we start to see life from that way. We start to say, oh yeah, I remember who I am. What role do I play in this, and what is my experience? Okay? Don't get me wrong, we've created some pretty awesome stuff too as creatures of this planet. But we're very destructive. We're a very destructive species. You know, we I think a lot of it is because some of these individuals, good morning, Ellie, some of these individuals are wanting to take the reign of God. They're wanting to be God, and they're not. And so that distortion of I'm almighty and powerful can only last for so long. You just can't. You can't. So we all have our right? Because we're all a piece of God. And we all, when you know who you are and you stand firm in who you are, nothing can waver you from that. None of this can waver you. You're just like, I know who I am. Doesn't matter what you take from me. That's what Jesus told us. That's what Buddha told us. And so if you looked at all these spiritual practitioners, and if you know, whoever you look to, whatever stories they all said that they knew who they were, so it didn't matter to them. It's like, you could take anything from me. Even Gandhi was like, whatever, okay, what are you gonna take? You can't take anything from me. I know who I am. So we've got to get to that point. Hopefully people will wake up. I can say that this year is going to be interesting, to say the least. And for those who are ready, for those who are doing the work, it's going to be a blessing. Not a curse, but a blessing. For those of you that don't want to get rid of the old, that are clinging on to old ideas, that are not setting up new foundations for their own self, are not working on their goals for their own self, they're gonna struggle a little bit. It's gonna be a little bit of a battle. Okay, so you have a choice. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. I said many prayers to those individuals, that are still engaged in looking at what's happening, in the U.S. and the craziness of these individuals, right? Like, I pray for their well-being, and I pray that God just kind of puts his hand over these individuals and, this country, this world, and starts to open up the hearts of individuals, and that there's this calling back to, right? Back to nature, back to God, back to love, close the circle, and remember that our true nature is love. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But hopefully you guys are, and I know you are, because you wouldn't be here if not. So I love you guys. I hope this is helpful. Continue to pray for those people, and let's just keep going. Okay, so I love you guys. Have a most magical day ever, and I will be seeing you guys tomorrow.